Hello, everybody. So, a couple of weeks ago, or about a week and a half ago now, I released a video talking about something that I've been doing for the past few months that really has changed my life entirely. And so, I've been trying to think of different ways. I've been in communication one on one with a lot of you, and I've really been trying to reach out to as many of you as possible. And some of you are around the world. So, I wanted to give some more information, not in substitute of our conversation and what we're going to talk about, but really to let you know more about how I got involved in this process and why it made sense for me. And today I wanted to talk to the person that was responsible for bringing me into this process, Patty. So, Patty, how are you?
I'm doing well, Ken. How are you?
I'm great, and thank you for taking the time to do this with me today.
Of
So,
course.
so tell me a little bit about how you got involved with Pathways and why this made sense for you.
It was really very simple. I had met a woman by the name of Barbara, and was really one of the very first people I'd met when I transitioned from corporate America, New York City, to building my own business in the Boston area. And she and I became very fast friends. We were at lunch and we were just kind of talking about the things that we each do. And I had shared with her that I'm very involved in the Live Out Loud community, do a lot of business coaching and mentoring, and I really enjoy it.
Right.
But that I was finding in some of my conversations that I really wasn't able to get to what was keeping people back from really meeting their full potential. And as I spoke further to her, I said, there are some times when I wonder what it is about me, my background, my upbringing, that keeps me from meeting my full potential. And so it was a very natural conversation. She said, you know what? Me too. And here is the curriculum or the group that I've met that helped expand, me beyond my high tech world. And she introduced me at that point to Pathways. And so the more she talked about it, I was just like, that sounds really interesting. I'm very aware that there's this other side of me, other creative side of me, other more intuitive side of me, but it's been kind of hiding, as I was working in the corporate world.
Right.
And the more we talked, she said, you ought to consider this 3-day workshop that I'm putting together. And so I just said yes.
And you're like that. And so the funny part is I know that you continued working with them. That was summer of last year, right?
Yes, she and I actually met September of 2012.
Okay.
And she and I probably didn't get into this conversation until about the November-December timeframe.
Right.
And at first, I didn't quite know, what it was all about. I didn't feel a sense of urgency. But the more she talked about it, and she's really gone further with this work. She's going to what they call mystery school, very stimulating
Right.
work. And so the more she talked about it, I just, I finally said, so how do I go to this program? I think I absolutely would love to do this workshop. So how do I do that?
Right. And so for me, it wasn't as easy. And I'm sure you'll recall because you continued with the work and you did their next program. And so in September of last year, you started a conversation with me about it, and I was pretty resistant at first. I had asked you about this type of work and doing this type of workshop, but I was a little more resistant to it. So what was that like for you?
I did not experience you as resistant. I knew that
Okay.
there was something that was holding you back, and I'm frankly used to working with people where there's just something that is holding them back.
Right.
So you had asked me about it actually at alumni.
Right. That's true. That's true.
And I said, well, coincidentally, there's this workshop. I'm actually part of a leadership group that begins in September that we learn from the activity of putting a workshop together.
Okay.
And at that point, I didn't quite know what I was going to learn through that process, but I have to say, it was hard, but it was great
Right.
in terms of what I got out of it from a life perspective.
And
So,
I'm experiencing that now as I go through the same
yes.
program. I followed in your footsteps into that program, and it's kind of what I was talking about in my video, that now I'm kind of carrying the torch and trying to share with my friends and colleagues and family and really everybody that I want to have a relationship with about this work, and of course with you. So yeah, explain a little more. You got maybe I
So
wasn't
you and I
resistant.
spoke about it, and I was being sensitive to what the cost was. So I was suggesting that you should go to a workshop on the West Coast.
Right.
And then I noticed that you weren't signing up. You kept saying, you know what, that sounds great. I love that work. You questioned me, but I enjoyed the level of questioning that you put me through because it allowed your and my relationship to become much deeper. And that was truly my objective. Is, you know, one of my many objectives, frankly, was to begin to develop deeper relationships with those people that I cared about.
Right.
So as you questioned me, I was like open to whatever you wanted to ask. And I was going to be as honest as possible in my responses and then see where it went.
Right.
I mean, all of this really is speaking, you know, once you and I get to the point where we were speaking heart to heart, not ego to ego,
Right.
I think that's where the breakthrough came.
Right.
And then and it was a breakthrough for me too. I finally said, you know what? I want you at my workshop in Boston. I don't want you at someone else's workshop on the West Coast.
True.
And I think it was, you know, that progression that ultimately caused you to say yes.
Right. Right. And so I did, and I went to the workshop that you created in November of last year. Mm-hmm. And it was definitely an incredible experience for me. It was up and down. Like I will say, and I've been honest in all my conversations, that it really depends on where you are right now in your personal life. Like it depends on what type of things you're dealing with. For me, I was in transition. A lot of you have heard that. And as far as what I wanted to get out of life, where I wanted to be in life. And that was in all regards. It was professionally, it was personal relationships, it was recovering from my health scare that I had 2 years ago. I mean, all of that was in my head. And when I went to the workshop, what my big takeaway was, among probably 100 takeaways, was really what I was focusing on as being my core problems or challenges were not my core problems and challenges. Right. Really, within the first day or so, everything I thought I knew about myself and what my situation was and where I was in the process changed dramatically. And my focus was put in different places. And so for me, I chose, after much deliberation, it was not an easy decision for me to continue the work. I loved the workshop. I thought it was amazing. By the time Sunday night rolled around, I was so, the word I would use is just calm. Calmer than I have probably been in my life. And most of you on my Facebook and all that know me as being pretty high energy, pretty, frenetic. And I left calm, and then I started to feel that I needed to take the challenge. I had watched you go through it. I had watched you in enrollment. I had watched you working with people and building relationships. And then I got to see you as part of the workshop, get to celebrate the enjoyment of having me there and everyone else that was there that was important to you. And there's not a person on my Facebook list or in my email list or anybody that I would be talking to that I don't have a relationship with in some way. Whether I've coached with you, whether I have taught on a stage with you in the room, whether we've talked, like I have had 50 conversations in the past month and a half, and I have more scheduled. I'm getting off this recording to go do more. And it's everybody I meet and everybody I have worked with, I'm learning new things about every day, and I'm sure it was the same for you. And so that's what this is about for me. I'm creating a workshop in Boston. I want to introduce more people. Patty, the reason you were first is you're the one that introduced me to the work. And I want to introduce all the people who are helping me do this and who are helping me put this together. And for those of you that are interested or that you want to learn more about what the work is like or what the workshop is like, it's in Boston. It's next month in March. So it's the 13th through the 16th. And I want to talk. So I brought that up before. I would love to talk to anyone who would be interested in this kind of work. And I really believe, and I know, Patty, you really believe that this work changes mindset. It changes life. It changes the way you look at your relationships. It changed so much about me. I'm still learning all the things that changed. And so anything you would want to say before we wrap today?
I would. One of the things that you said is that the program meets you where you are. So I have said to folks that the 3-day workshop for me was intellectually stimulating, was interesting, made me want to learn more. So, and it was a nice workshop. Where I had more of my what I'll call breakthroughs was when I participated in, there was a 5-day women's retreat. And so it really brought me back to the woman that I had forgotten I was, running around in New York City, hard charging. And then I went on to the leadership program, which ultimately builds these workshops, and really came up against my ego and how to get through that so that I could be more productive myself.
Right.
And then very hungry for more. Very much enjoyed participating as more of a facilitator with others like yourself in the workshop,
Right.
and just seeing you grow. I mean, it's just so wonderful. I'm growing myself, and then seeing people who are important to me also learn and grow, and being much more conscious of how we're impacting the world and how we're able to impact the world going forward.
Right. Well, thanks to all of you that sat through this and are interested, and I would love to chat with you. So all you got to do is sign up. This is not a business opportunity. This is not an MLM. This has nothing to do with my professional career. This is about my relationships in my life. And so I always make sure that people know that this is not a sales pitch. So if you're interested, just want to have a chat, I would love to chat with you. And Patty, thanks for doing this with me.
You're welcome. Take care.
Thanks.